Hey everyone, welcome back to our fun little radio podcast. I'm Alex, your host, and today we have a super interesting topic, living in a new country. Yeah, new culture, new food, new problems, and sometimes funny mistakes too. So if you ever moved abroad or plan to do it, this episode is for you. And today I'm not alone. I have a special guest who actually experienced all of this. Nicole, welcome to the show.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me. And hello, everyone listening. Yes, I can confirm living in a new country is exciting, but also a little crazy sometimes. When I first moved, I felt like a tourist every single day. Even simple things like buying food or asking for directions felt like a big challenge. But at the same time, it was fun because everything was new and different.
I totally get that. I remember when I traveled abroad, I tried to order coffee and ended up getting something completely different. I just smiled and said, "Yeah, this is perfect," even though I had no idea what I was drinking. Nicole, tell me honestly, what was your first big culture shock when you arrived in the new country?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the biggest shock was how people communicate. In my country, people are more direct, but in the new country, they were more polite and indirect. At first, I was confused. Sometimes I didn't understand if someone was serious or just being nice. I even thought people didn't like me. But later I realized it was just a different communication style.
That's actually very interesting. Communication styles can really change how we feel in a new place. I think many listeners can relate to that. Also, language plays a big role. When you don't fully understand the language, even small conversations can feel stressful. Nicole, did you have any funny or embarrassing moments because of language problems?
Oh, yes, so many. One time I went to a restaurant and wanted to say I was full, but I used the wrong word and said something like, "I am completely finished as a person." The waiter looked very confused and a little worried. I just laughed and said, "Sorry, I'm still learning." Moments like that can feel embarrassing, but later they become funny memories you can laugh about.
That is hilarious. I think everyone who learns a new language has stories like that. It's almost like a part of the journey. But I guess those situations also help you improve faster, right? Because you remember your mistakes very clearly. Nicole, how did you deal with those moments? Did you feel shy or did you try to stay confident and keep talking?
At the beginning, I was definitely shy. I was afraid people would laugh at me or not understand me. So sometimes I avoided speaking. But later I realized that practice is more important than being perfect. When I started speaking more, even with mistakes, I improved much faster. Most people were kind and patient. They appreciated that I was trying, and that gave me more confidence over time.
That's such an important point. I think many listeners are afraid of making mistakes, especially in a new language. But like you said, mistakes are actually part of learning. Also, living in a new country is not only about language. There are daily life challenges too, like finding a house, making friends, or even understanding public transport. What was the hardest daily challenge for you?
Honestly, making friends was the hardest part. Everything else you can learn step by step, but building real connections takes time. At first, I felt a little lonely because I didn't know anyone. But I started joining small events, language groups, and even simple meetups. Slowly, I met people who became friends. It taught me that being open and patient is very important in a new environment.
That makes a lot of sense. Making friends in a new country can feel like starting life from zero again. But I like what you said about joining events. It sounds simple, but many people are too shy to take that first step. Nicole, do you think stepping out of your comfort zone is necessary when you live in a new country?
Yes, I really believe it is necessary. If you stay inside your comfort zone, you will feel safe, but you will not grow. In a new country, everything is already different, so you need to be open to new experiences. It can be scary at first, but it also makes life more exciting. Every small step outside your comfort zone helps you feel stronger and more independent.
I like that idea a lot. Growth usually happens when things feel a little uncomfortable. Another thing I'm curious about is daily routines. When you move to a new country, even your normal habits can change. Food, sleep, work, everything feels different. Nicole, how did you build a new routine and feel more stable in your daily life?
At first, everything felt chaotic. I didn't have a clear routine, and that made me feel lost. So I started with small habits, like waking up at the same time, going for a short walk, and planning my day. These simple actions helped me feel more in control. Slowly, I built a routine that worked for me. It gave me comfort and made the new country feel more like home.
That's really helpful advice. I think routines can give people a sense of stability, especially in a new environment. Also, I imagine there are many emotional ups and downs when living abroad. Some days feel exciting, and other days feel lonely or stressful. Nicole, how did you handle those emotional moments when things felt difficult?
Honestly, I had many emotional days. Sometimes I felt excited, and other days I felt very lonely. What helped me was staying connected with my family and old friends through calls and messages. I also reminded myself why I moved in the first place. Writing my thoughts in a journal helped me understand my feelings better. Over time, I learned that these emotional ups and downs are a normal part of the experience.
That's very honest, and I think many people will relate to that. It's not always easy, but it sounds like those challenges also help you grow stronger. Another thing I'm curious about is food. Let's be honest, food is very important. Did you enjoy the new food, or did you miss the food from your home country a lot?
Oh, food was a big adventure. At first, I really missed the food from my home country. Nothing tasted the same. But then I started trying local dishes, and some of them became my favorites. I also learned to cook some of my traditional meals at home. That helped me feel more comfortable. Food is not just about taste. It's also about memories and feeling connected to your culture.
That's so true. Food really connects us to our identity. Another thing people often worry about is work or study in a new country. It can be stressful to understand systems, rules, and expectations. Nicole, did you face any challenges at work or school when you first arrived?
Yes, definitely. At the beginning, everything felt confusing. The way people worked, communicated, and even solved problems was different. I had to observe and learn quickly. Sometimes I made mistakes, but I tried not to be too hard on myself. Asking questions helped a lot. Most people were willing to explain things. Slowly, I became more comfortable and confident in my work environment.
That's very relatable. I think many listeners feel afraid to ask questions because they don't want to look inexperienced. But like you said, asking questions is actually a smart move. It shows you are willing to learn. Nicole, do you think being open and curious is one of the most important skills when living in a new country?
Yes, absolutely. Being open and curious makes everything easier. When you are curious, you learn faster and understand people better. Instead of judging differences, you start to appreciate them. It also helps you connect with others because people like to share their culture and experiences. Curiosity turns fear into interest, and that change can make your life in a new country much more enjoyable.
I love that idea, turning fear into interest. That sounds like a powerful mindset. Another thing many people worry about is feeling like an outsider. When you don't fully understand the culture, you might feel different or not included. Nicole, did you ever feel like that, and how did you deal with that feeling?
Yes, I felt that many times. It's normal to feel like an outsider in the beginning. What helped me was accepting that I am different, and that's okay. I didn't try to change who I am completely. Instead, I learned to respect the new culture while staying true to myself. Over time, I found people who accepted me, and I felt more comfortable and included.
That's a very balanced way to look at it. You don't lose yourself, but you also grow and adapt. I think that's the real goal. Before we continue, I want to ask something a bit fun. If you could go back to your first week in the new country, what advice would you give to your younger self?
That's a fun question. I would tell myself, relax, you don't need to be perfect. In the beginning, I put too much pressure on myself to understand everything and speak perfectly, but that only made me stressed. I would also say, don't be afraid to make mistakes. People are more understanding than you think. And maybe one more thing. Enjoy the experience because this is a special time in your life.
That's really great advice. I think many people forget to enjoy the journey because they focus too much on problems. Living in a new country is not just a challenge, it's also an opportunity. You learn about yourself, your strengths, and your limits. Nicole, would you say this experience changed you as a person?
Yes, it changed me a lot. I became more independent and more confident. Before, I depended on familiar places and people. But in a new country, you have to solve problems on your own. That builds strength. I also became more open-minded. I learned that there are many different ways to live and think, and that made me more flexible and understanding.
That's inspiring. It sounds like living abroad is like a fast personal growth program. You learn life skills very quickly. But let's be honest again, it's not always easy. There must have been moments when you thought about giving up or going back home. Nicole, did you ever feel like that?
Yes, I did. There were moments when I felt tired, confused, and even homesick. I missed my family, my language, and familiar places. But I reminded myself why I started this journey. I also focused on small, positive things each day. Slowly, those difficult moments passed. Looking back now, I'm really glad I didn't give up.
That's a powerful story. I think many listeners will feel encouraged by your experience. It shows that even when things feel difficult, it is possible to continue and grow. Living in a new country is not just about changing your location, it's about changing yourself. Nicole, what do you think is the biggest lesson you learned from this journey?
I think the biggest lesson is that I am stronger than I thought. Before, I doubted myself in new situations, but this experience showed me that I can adapt, learn, and survive in a completely new environment. It also taught me patience. Growth takes time, and it's okay to move slowly. What matters is not giving up and continuing the journey.
That's a great message. I hope our listeners remember that. Living in a new country is not always easy, but it can be one of the most meaningful experiences in life. You discover new cultures, meet new people, and learn so much about yourself. Nicole, do you have any final advice for someone who is planning to move abroad soon?
Yes, my advice is simple. Be patient with yourself and stay open to new experiences. Don't expect everything to be perfect from the beginning. Take small steps, make mistakes, and learn from them. Try to enjoy the journey, not just the result. And most importantly, believe in yourself because you are more capable than you think.
That's beautiful advice. I think it can help not only people who move abroad, but anyone facing a new challenge in life. Sometimes we all need a reminder to trust ourselves. Nicole, thank you so much for sharing your story and your thoughts with us today. It was really interesting and inspiring.
Thank you, Alex. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was nice to talk about my experience and remember how much I have learned. I also hope our listeners feel less afraid and more excited about new experiences. Life in a new country can be challenging, but it can also be an amazing adventure.
I completely agree. And to everyone listening, remember that every new beginning feels difficult at first, but with time, effort, and a positive mindset, things get better. Don't be afraid to try something new, even if it feels uncomfortable. That's where growth happens. This has been a wonderful conversation about living in a new country, facing challenges, and growing as a person. We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something useful from it. Don't forget, learning happens step by step, just like Nicole's journey. If you enjoyed this episode and want to improve your English while listening to real conversations, make sure to follow our channel and stay tuned for more episodes like this. We have many interesting topics coming soon. And that's all for today's radio podcast. Thank you so much for listening and spending your time with us. Take care of yourself, stay positive, and keep learning. See you in the next episode.